We usually think of culture as something uniquely human. We solve problems, use tools, and most importantly, we pass knowledge to each other through communication. Culture feels like something that requires language, intention, and complex thought. But a recent study on bumblebees challenges that assumption in a much quieter and much more unsettling way. In 2023, researchers at Queen Mary University of London showed that culture like behavior can emerge even in animals as simple as bees. In the experiment, bumblebees were given a small puzzle box made from a petri dish that contained a sugar reward. The box could be opened in a various number of ways by pushing either a blue tab or a red tab, and both methods worked equally well. Some bees were trained ahead of time and used only one of these methods. These bees became demonstrators, and the way they were trained was slow and deliberate. At first, the box was left open so they could access the sugar freely, but over time they added tabs to cover the reward, nudging the bees towards a specific color. Once a bee opened the box in the same way twice, it was considered trained. When untrained bees were introduced, they were allowed to observe these demonstrator bees before trying the puzzle themselves. The researchers then tracked which method the new bees used and whether their behavior changed over time. The results were striking. Bees that had not observed a demonstrator struggled much more to open the box at all. Bees that had observed a demonstrator overwhelmingly copied the same method and the same color. When different groups were trained with different demonstrators, each group developed a strong preference for its own method. Even more interesting, those preferences stuck. As the newbies joined the group, they tended to adopt the dominant behavior rather than experiment with alternatives. Over time, one method became the norm, not because it was better, but because it was already established. At that point, the behavior looked less like individual problem solving and more like a tradition. What makes this important is that bees aren't reasoning about efficiency or meaning. They aren't deciding which option is objectively the best. They're following a simple rule. If a behavior is visible and successful, it's probably worth copying. That alone is enough to produce stable, group-specific behaviors that resemble culture. And that's where the comparison to humans gets uncomfortable. We like to believe our customs and systems persist because they're rational or optimal, but many of them survive for the same reason the bee's behavior does. They were learned socially, spread early, and became self-reinforcing. Once something becomes common, its popularity protects it from being questioned. This study suggests that intelligence isn't the only thing shaping group behavior. What matters just as much is what people, or bees, see, what they copy, what gets repeated over time. Culture in this sense isn't always about the result of deep reasoning. Sometimes it's just imitation, amplified until it feels inevitable.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.